This section talks about merchandising activities. First of all, let's talk about merchandise. What's merchandise? It's just another word for products or goods that are sold. Next, let's talk about a merchandiser. A merchandiser is a company that buys and sells merchandise or buys and sells products or goods. Companies like JCPenney, Walmart, Kroger, they're all merchandisers. There are two types of merchandisers: wholesalers, who buy products from manufacturers and then sell to other businesses called retailers, and then retailers who either buy from manufacturers or wholesalers and sell to the end consumer. The companies we're more familiar with, like Walmart, JCPenney, Target, are retailers. Net income for a merchandiser is calculated a bit differently from that of a service company. For a service company, which is what you have seen to date, we calculated net income by taking our revenues minus expenses, and that gave us our net income. But for a merchandiser, there are some additional steps. For a merchandiser, we start with sales, then we subtract cost of goods sold, sometimes also called cost of sales. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then that equals gross profit. Then we subtract our other expenses, and that equals net income. So an income statement for a merchandiser will look like this. You can start with net sales, which is the same as sales revenue. Then you subtract cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold is an expense account. And then you end up with a line item called gross profit, which is net sales minus cost of goods sold. Then from your gross profit, you subtract your other expenses such as salaries, rent, all the expenses you've seen to date, and that gives you your net income. Cost of goods sold is the cost of the merchandise sold to customers during a period. So again, cost of goods sold represents the cost of the merchandise that was sold to customers during a period. Cost of goods sold is an expense account. In the balance sheet of a merchandiser, we have a new item called inventory. Sometimes it's also called merchandise inventory. This is the goods or the merchandise that the merchandiser has for resale. So this is the goods that the company has for resale. We call that inventory. Inventory is listed in your balance sheet as a current asset. Now, a current asset, which we talked about earlier, is assets that we expect to use or benefit from within less than a year. So if it's a current asset, you're showing it at the top of your balance sheet under assets that we expect to receive a benefit from within less than 1 year. Merchandisers use different types of inventory systems. We're going to talk about two of them. The first one is called Perpetual Inventory System. Under Perpetual Inventory System, the inventory records are continuously updated with each transaction. For example, let's say you go into Walmart to buy a box of cereal. When you take the box of cereal to the cash register, the cashier scans the item. Every time it goes beep, the Walmart's inventory system is updated with the record. It says you have sold 1 box of cereal. So it'll update their sales transactions, it'll update their inventory. If you have 30 items in your basket, every transaction is immediately updated in Walmart's inventory system. Most companies, especially the large ones, use perpetual inventory systems. Even smaller companies, if they have a computerized systems that can track barcodes, they will be using perpetual inventory systems. The second type of inventory system we're going to talk about is called a periodic inventory system. Under a periodic inventory system, inventory records are only updated at the end of a period, such as a week, month, or even a year, depending on the company. Periodic inventory systems are used by smaller companies or companies that have very inexpensive items, so it does not make sense for them to install an expensive perpetual inventory system. For example, a company that makes nuts and bolts would not have a perpetual inventory system. They're not going to update their inventory for every nut or bolt they sell. They will only update their inventory at the end of a period. It could be monthly, it could be daily, but it would be at a specific time at the end of a period and not with every transaction.